Hello everyone, my name is Brad and welcome to Mediocre Models. In this video today I'm going to show you how I paint my Waffen SS with the Autumn/Winter camo scheme. So here I have some already finished. And as you can see, it's sort of just a nice looking colour, at least I think it is. Painting SS uniforms is just, well, I think it's difficult to paint just normally with regular paints, but doubly so with contrast paints. But I think I've got the colours, but as always, you know, it's always good to experiment and try things out and see what is best for you. So the model I've chosen is this one, obviously. He's been undercoated with Corax white, and for our contrast paints I'll use my German uniform mixture, which is 2 parts basilicanum grey and 1 part creed camo. Basilicanum grey, gryph hound orange, gore grunter fur, skeleton horde, wyldwood, snakebite leather, creed camo, black Templar, and Gilmour Flesh for the contrast paints. Then I have leadbelcher for the metallics, and Null Oil and Agrex Earthshade for shades at the end. So I'll get set up for the first paint and then we can get started. So the first paint I'm going to use is my German uniform mixture, and with this paint I'm going to put it onto his trousers, so just all over his pants, and he has a collar that is sticking up at the top of his smock, and I'll just paint that in as well. If you have any with field caps or the officers' caps or any with the steel helmets, you could also use this colour to paint it in. Equally, you could, not paint his pants or, anything like that, and we could move on to the next step and just put the camouflage on him. But for this particular model, I'm just going to paint in his smock in the camouflage. So I'll continue on and I'll finish this off, and then we'll come on to the next paint. Now that the German uniform is dry, the next colour I'll move on to will be basilicanum grey, and this will be the base layer for the smock. So I'm putting it on, just try to avoid any major pooling in any areas, and just try and get a nice smooth, sort of not too heavy base coat. You want it to obviously be grey, but you don't want it to be too dark. So that I'll put this all over his smock, and if any of them have helmet nettings or coverings, I'll also put it over that. So I'll go around and I'll finish putting this on, and once this is dry, we'll move on to the next colour. Now that the base layer of basilicanum grey is all dry, the next colour I'm going to move on to will be gryph hound orange, and this will be the first colour I'll put onto his uniform to start the camouflage effect. There's a couple of ways you can put this on. You could get an old brush and sort of dip it in and then stipple it on. Same as like this packaging foam that comes in the blister packs. And you could also use a toothpick and do dots and things, and that'll give you your P dot camo. But for this particular model and how I've just painted the rest of the unit, I'm just going to use a regular paintbrush and just do my usual small to medium size shapes. So when putting it on, it'll just go straight on. And just put them on here and there. If you're unsure or you're looking for something a bit more specific and how you want to apply it, I recommend just going online and looking at uniforms and finding the one that suits or attracts you the most. Putting it on, just be careful and try not to put too much on and overload the model too much with the colour, because there's still two more colours we're going to add to this, which will be gore, grunter fur and wyldwood, just to give it that multi-tone look and make it a bit more visually interesting. So it'll be all over his smock, and if any of them have the helmet color covers or anything like that, it'll just go all over that as well. So I'll let that dry, and then once that's dry we can move on to the next colour. The next colour I'll move on to will be gore, grunter fur, and with this colour I will paint it onto any leather straps for the weapons, as well as putting it onto his boots. If you don't want to paint his boots this colour, you could use black Templar and give him black boots, but I prefer the brown boots. And this will also be the next colour that we'll just put onto his smock. So I'm putting it on once again, sort of small to medium sized shapes. You can put it over the gryph hound orange a little bit and sort of blend the two in together. And this will just help to add a bit more colour, a bit more variation to the uniform. I sort of just put it, in between and over the top of the other colour. So I'll go and I'll finish him off, putting the rest of this colour on. And then once he's done, we'll move on to the next colour. The next colour I'll move on to now will be Skeleton Horde, and with this I will paint it onto his bread bag, as well as onto his gaiters. Nice quick simple step. So I'll finish this off, and then we'll come to the next colour. While the Skeleton Horde is still drying, the next colour I'll move on to will be wyldwood. And with this I'll paint it onto the handles of any entrenching tools they have. And I'll also use this as the final colour to go onto the smock. When putting it on, I would recommend just a small amount, sort of in between and over the top of the already existing colours. You can put a little bit just on its own, but I like to just sort of mix it in a little bit just to give it another tone. Just sort of make it a bit more interesting. Try and still leave some of the grey showing through. So I'll go around and finish him off and let him dry. Then we can move on to the next colour. The next colour I'll move on to now will be snakebite leather, sorry. And this will go onto any wooden areas on the weapon, and also the bottoms of the canteens here. Putting it on, do try and be a bit careful not to get onto the uniform. So I'll continue on and finish him off, and then when that's dry we'll move on to the next paint. The next colour I'll move on to now will be Creed Camo, and with this colour I will put it onto any of the equipment that they've got on the back here. So that'll be the gas mask container, the top of the water bottle here, water canteen, as well as their cooking trays here. go ahead and finish that and let that dry, and then we'll move on to the next colour. Now that the Creed Camo is all dry, the next colour I'll move on to will be Black Templar. And with this I will put it onto his webbing, so any of his ammo pouches at the front here, as well as any straps that he has on the front, as well as the straps at the back. Any of the little straps that go over his equipment. I'll also put it over his entrenching tool cover, and if any of them are wearing helmets, I'll also put this over the straps of the helmets, whether they've got the actual straps down and are wearing them, or whether they're, across the front there. So I'll go around and I'll finish this off. Then I'll clean up his hands and his face with Corax white, and then we can move on to the final contrast paint. Now that I've cleaned up all his flesh with the Corax white and let that dry, the next colour I'll move on to will be Gilmour Flesh. And this will just go straight over, well, all his flesh. That'll be his face, as well as his hands. So with the Guilliman Flesh applied, that'll be the last of the contrast paints. The next thing to do is to move on to the metallics, and then after that's done, it'll be onto the shades. So I'll finish this and let this dry, and then we can move on to the metallics. With the Guilliman Flesh all dry now, the next colour I'll move on to will be leadbelcher. And with this colour I'll paint in all the metallic areas on the model, so that'll be belt buckle on the front, as well as any clips on his webbing, the O-ring on the back, and any clips on any of his equipment and that. I'll also use this and paint in any metallic areas on the weapons themselves. I like to paint all my weapons this way because I like the way it looks and I like how it stands out. So I'll go around and I'll finish this off, and then once this is dry we can move on to the shades. Now that the leadbelcher is all dry, the first shade I'll move on to will be Null Oil. And this will just be a shade over all the metallic areas. So if you painted your weapons like I have, it'll just be all over the metal areas on the weapons, as well as any metallic areas across the rest of the model, such as his belt buckle and any clips he has on them. So I'll put this on and then let this dry, and once this is dry we can move on to the final shade. Now that the Null Oil is all dry, I'm going to move on to the final shade, which will be Agrex Earth shade. This will just be a shade over the entire model, and this is just to, make them all nice and dirty, give them that nice dirty war-torn look to them. It'll also dull all the colours down a bit and sort of tie them all in together and make it look, well, nice. At least I think it does. If you've painted your weapons like I have with the metallic areas, try to avoid getting it onto any of the major metallic areas. But other than that, it's just an all-over wash. Try to avoid any major pooling. Just spread the paint around. Once this is dry, we'll come back and take a final look at him and compare him to his squad mates. And that should be it. So I'll let that dry and then we'll come back when he's all dry. Now that the Agrex Earthshade is basically all fully dry now, this is the completed model. As you can see, that shade's really brought down all the colours and, you know, helped tie it all in together and really give him that nice dirty war-torn look like he's been in combat for quite some time. That's how he looks. And then compared to his two squad mates who have painted in basically exactly the same way. Now when painting, you know, SS uniforms or anything like that, it's really, you know, 101 different ways you can paint it. The base colors can be different, you know, you can do all sorts of different browns and blacks and, you know, everything like that just to give you different shades and uniform colors. And, you know, even just putting the camo pattern on, there's, you know, a whole bunch of different ways you can put camo patterns on. Once again, just, you know, look it up online and see what you like the look of, and, you know, find something that appeals to you and that, well, you like the look of and that you want to put onto your models. They're your models, you can paint them however you want. Once again, you know, you don't have to limit the camo to just their smocks. You can also put it, you know, onto their pants, you know, any with the helmet covers, or even if they've just got the plain helmets, or, you know, even the field caps or anything like that. And really just, you know, just enjoy painting the models for what they are. So yeah, so that's him finished. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that and hope you learnt something, and, you know, hope that inspires you to go and try and paint your models however you want, whether it's this way or another way. So that's it for this one. Thank you for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.